Chapter 11. The relation of the battle between Judas and Lysias, the general of Eupator, after the death of King Antiochus. The name of Antiochus, of whom mention has been made above, was Epiphanes, but the name of his son who reigned after him was Eupator, who also was named Antiochus. And when the battle of Judas with these generals had taken place, they wrote on the subject to Eupator, who sent with Lysias, his cousin's son, a large army, in which were 80,000 horsemen and 80 elephants, who coming to a city which is called Bethaner, pitched their camp around it and besieged it, because it was a large city and much people was therein. And Lysias raised engines of war around it, and began to besiege the inhabitants, which being told to Judas, he himself and his company went out to some fortified mountains, and there they abode, lest if they remained in any city, Lysias should come and besiege it, and should overpower them. Judas therefore collected his company, and resolved to march with them to Lysias' camp, after they should have gone to the house of God, and offered sacrifices in it, beseeching the great and good God to turn away from them the malice of their enemies, and to grant them victory over them, which thing they did. After this they marched from the region of the holy house to Bethaner, for they had designed to come upon the army suddenly, and to defeat it without a struggle. Now men say that there appeared to Judas, lo, a certain personage between heaven and earth, riding on a fiery horse, and holding in his hand a large spear, which with he smote the army of the Gentiles, so that what they had seen gave them additional courage and spirits. And they made haste and charged the army, and slew great numbers of its men. Wherefore the enemy's array was troubled, and thrown into greatest confusion, and the whole of it betook itself into a confused flight. And the sword of Judas and his company pressed sore upon it, and he slew of them 11,000 footmen and 1,600 horsemen. Lysias also was chased, with his company, to a distant place, in which he remained in safety. And he sent to Judas, desiring him to be subject to the king, retaining his own and his people's religion, to whom Judas consented in this matter, until word could be written to the king, and an answer of his agreeing thereto could be received. And Judas wrote concerning this business. Lysias also wrote to the king, informing him of what had happened, and what proof he had heard of the strength and bravery of the Jewish nation, and that a continuation of wars with them would exterminate his men, as these before mentioned had been exterminated. He told him also their agreement, and his own waiting until he should receive a letter to say what he must do. To whom the king replied that it seemed right to him to make peace with the nation of the Jews, taking away that stumbling block concerning the exercise of their religion, for that this very thing had incited them to the revolts and to the attacks made on his predecessors. He also commanded him to make with them a treaty of peace and obedience, so that no obstacles should be thrown in their way in the matter of religion. He wrote also to Judas and to the Jews who were in the land of Judah, according to this effect, and this peace continued between them for some space of time. Chapter 12. An account of the beginning of the power of the Romans and of the enlargement of their empire. At this same time of which we have been speaking, the affairs of the Romans began to be exalted, that the great and good God might fulfill that which Daniel the prophet had foretold concerning the fourth empire. There was also at this time a certain most munificent king in Africa, whose name was Hannibal, and the royal seat of his empire was Carthage. He determined to take possession of the kingdom of the Romans, wherefore they united to oppose him, and wars were multiplied between them, so that they fought 18 battles in the space of 10 years. And they were not able to drive him out of their country by reason of his innumerable army and people. They determined therefore to raise a large force, selected from their bravest troops and armies, and to attack Hannibal in war, and to persevere until they should turn away his forces from them. Which thing truly they did, and they placed at the head of their armies 2 most renowned men. The name of one was Emilius, and the other Varro, who, meeting Hannibal, engaged with him, and there were slain of their army 19,000 men, and of Hannibal's army 14,000 men were slain. Emilius also was killed in the battle. But Varro fled into a certain very large and strong city called Venusia. Him Hannibal did not pursue, but he marched to Rome to take it and there to remain. So he lay before it 8 days, and began to build houses opposite to it, which when the citizens saw, they deliberated on entering into a peace and treaty with him, and on surrendering the country. But there was among them a certain young man named Scipio. For the Romans at that time were without a king, and the entire administration of their affairs was committed to 320 men, over whom presided a person who was called senior or elder. Scipio therefore comes to these, and persuaded them not to trust to Hannibal, nor to submission to him, to whom they answered that they did not trust him, but that they were unable to resist him. To whom he said, The country of Africa is wholly destitute of soldiers, because that they are all here with Hannibal. Give me therefore a troop of chosen men, that I may go to Africa. And I will perform such feats in it, that when tidings of them shall reach him, perhaps he will quit you, and you will be freed from him, and will be in peace. And having retrieved and strengthened your resources, if he should prepare to return, you will be able to oppose him. And the advice of Scipio appeared to them to be right, and they committed to him 30,000 of their bravest men. He proceeded into Africa, and Asdrubal the brother of Hannibal met him, and fought with him, whom Scipio defeated, and cut off his head, and took it, with the rest of the prey, and returned to Rome. And mounting upon the rampart, he called to Hannibal, and said, How will you be able to prevail against this our country, when you are not able to expel me from your own land, to which I have gone? I have destroyed it, and have killed your brother, and have brought away his head. Then he threw the head to him, which being brought to Hannibal he recognized by him. He was increased in fury and anger against the people, and swore that he would not depart till he had taken Rome. But the citizens, to withdraw him from them and keep him in check, took counsel to send back Scipio to besiege and attack Carthage. And Scipio returned with his army into Africa, and they besieged their camp around Carthage, and besieged it with a most active siege. Wherefore the inhabitants wrote to Hannibal, saying, You are coveting a foreign country, which you know not, whether you will be able to win or not. But there has come to your own country one who is endeavoring to gain possession of it. Wherefore, if you delay coming, we will surrender to him the country, and will give up your family and all your substance and your treasures, that we and our property may go unhurt. Now when this letter was brought to him, he departed from Rome, and hastened till he came into Africa. And Scipio went forward and met him, and fought a most fierce battle with him 3 times, and there were slain 50,000 of his men. But Hannibal, being put to flight, retired into the land of Egypt, whom Scipio pursued and took him prisoner, and returned to Africa. And when he was there, Hannibal disdained to be seen by the Africans, wherefore he took poison and died. And Scipio won the country of Africa, and possessed himself of all the goods and servants and treasures of Hannibal, by which means the fame of the Romans was magnified, and their power from that time began to receive increase.